Or shot fire, officer down, shot fire, officer down. Got a city officer down, shot fire.
223, be advised, we have a visual on enemy paratroopers in grid Papa uniforms.
Welcome to the Resilient Warrior Nation, a podcast dedicated to inspiring hope and healing for first responders, military veterans, and anyone facing PTSD and trauma. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Resilient Warrior Nation podcast. I'm your host, Mike Morgan. I started this podcast. This shirt here is not a proclamation. This is the company of a man named Eddie Penny. Eddie's a former Navy SEAL Team 6 guy. Eddie was a guest on the Sean Ryan podcast a couple of years ago. And as Eddie told his story about losing his best friend Jason Workman in what's become known as the Extortion 17 incident, in which a Chinook was shot down in Afghanistan, killing all 38 souls aboard, including 17 SEALs. It's been their largest loss of community in one incident. Eddie was visibly upset, and rightly so. I simultaneously began thinking about a call that I had as a police officer 5 years before, about a 2-year-old found floating in a pool, and began crying uncontrollably, realizing instantaneously that the feelings I had been experiencing over the past 2 years, I was medically retired from my job, were signs of some sort of PTSD that I had suffered as a result of being inside the most devastatingly intimate moments of other people's lives over the course of a 30-year career. So in starting my healing journey, which included psychedelic therapies, I realized that one thing I needed to do, my life's purpose, began helping other first responders and vets heal their traumas and PTSD issues. So one way I decided to pay it forward is by creating this podcast in which I bring on guests who are ordinary people who've done extraordinary things with their lives. They will talk about their journeys, their highs, their lows, how they've healed. They are the same as you watch this. We are all the same. You are us, we are you. There's nothing different. And my hope is that you get inspired, gives you inspiration and hope that you guys can feel happy once again, because I promise you, you can. So that is literally my one mission with this podcast. So I'm very excited about today's guest. Let me introduce him. He is Sifu Alan Baker, and we're going to discuss what Sifu means, because I did not know when I was first became familiar with the word. Alan Baker is a globally renowned martial arts and self-defense expert, and esteemed instructor, coach, author, and motivational speaker. Widely known as the agent of change, Alan has dedicated his career to empowering individuals through teaching defensive tactics, martial arts, and the Warrior's Path self-leadership program. This transformative approach cultivates a warrior mindset for positive and profound life changes. With his unparalleled expertise, Sifu Baker has played a pivotal role in shaping numerous successful businesses and associations within the defensive tactics and martial arts industry. His passion for personal growth and empowering and preparing others has made him a highly sought-after figure. Alan has been teaching professionally since 1990 and is widely respected for his relentless dedication to growth and mastery. Alan does not believe that any single martial arts system holds all the answers when it comes to real-world combat. He holds advanced rank and/or instructor certifications in more than 25 distinct martial arts systems. Alan has authored 3 books on distinctive personal and professional development approach. Introduced to mountaineering and rappelling, Sifu became a dive instructor, rappel master, etc., etc., etc. The list does not end. You guys have to read Alan's bio. It is incredible. Today, Sifu Alan Baker speaks nationally to audiences on the Warrior's Path philosophy, how to implement action and positive change in their lives. Alan, welcome to the podcast. It's an honor to have you on.
Mike, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. So first off, can you please explain to the audience what Sifu means?
Sifu is Cantonese, loosely instructor, teacher. It also can be translated as father. Traditionally, a lot of the Cantonese or Kung Fu systems were not taught outside the family. You only taught it to family members. So that influenced some of the titles in the various systems.
Interesting. So it was all, just family to family, as opposed to having big schools and people kind of going in there and getting taught.
Correct. And I picked up the nickname, probably in the early 90s. It was one of the first, formal instructor titles.
Okay.
And from it's a system that is based on Shaolin Kung Fu, and it just stuck. I was teaching in a martial arts academy in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we actually had 2 locations there, and there's probably 400 students between the 2 locations, and every day you're Sifu, you're Sifu, you're Sifu, and I didn't really have a life outside the academy. I was pretty much there all day, every day, and so it just stuck.
That's great. It's a great name. It's funny because our mutual friend Kenny Mitchell, who had introduced us, left a voicemail and several times stated your name as Sifu Alan, and I'm like, I couldn't understand what he was saying. I'm like, it sounds like Sifu. I'm like, but it can't be Sifu. I'm like, that's no one's first name. And I looked you up, and I'm like, now it makes sense. All right. So, all right, great. So, listen, can you tell the audience about your childhood? Kind of let them know you a little bit, where you're from, how you were raised, family, etc.
Originally from a small town, a little north of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Came up like everybody else. I was in school. I was a rowdy, uncontrollable kid, and one day the school system sent a letter home to mom and said, "You've got to drug this guy. We can't
Even
handle
back then,
him."
really?
Yeah.
Wow. I can see now it's a totally different ball game, but back then that they weren't used that much on us. We're pretty much the same generation, so that's amazing to me.
And I'm very fortunate mom chose not to, but she
Good.
started to look around for other options. And at that time, one of the options was the local martial arts academy. And the first academy was an Ishinru karate academy, and it was taught in a fallout shelter at the local community college. I'm dating
Really?
myself there a little bit.
People are like, a what?
Yeah, and went in, and the owner of the school, he had 2 sons, and obviously they grew up doing this stuff. And
Yeah.
somehow I earned the right to spar both of them before the end of that night. And they just, honestly, they just kicked my ass. They just beat me to death. And I knew this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. I loved it. These are my people.
Really?
I got to go to this place and do the things I wanted to do, but I got in trouble doing it at home. If you got in fights at school, you got in trouble.
Yep.
So it was an outlet for the rowdiness, and I was bought and sold from that point forward. As soon as I started to get a little older, and back then, what is it, 6-7 decades ago, you could mow the neighbor's yard, rake the leaves, wash the car, and you could make a little cash.
Yep. I did it.
And I used to do that. I went after it because I'd give the money to my parents, and I'd say, I want to do more of this stuff called martial arts. And I know there's other schools in town because my buddies at school, they train in different places. So after a while, I was a member of just about every academy in that little town.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, how old were you when you started?
I was just before my 11th birthday.
Really?
Yeah.
And you had the awareness as a young kid to start training in additional disciplines as opposed to just staying with the original one that you started with, huh?
Well, I just loved it. And, I didn't know at that time it was a bad thing.
Right.
In some of those cultures, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, I know.
But I didn't know that. And I wanted more,
Yeah.
I wanted to spend more time in places that were physical and, did the training and stuff. So I sought it out. And, I specifically remember all of my teachers, up to a certain point, recognizing my inability to focus.
Okay.
Because, even though I loved it, it was hard for me to stay on track. And, we'd be doing a drill or something like that, and I'd get drawn off, and they'd have to go, hey, back over here. This is what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And all of them would say pretty much the same thing. You need to work on that. Well, okay. You can go to the next one, and wow, you really need to work on your ability to focus and direct your mind. And it wasn't until about 14 or 15 years old, in that pursuit of looking for other sources of information, I met a Kung Fu instructor. And I think this probably be around 16, 17, actually, because it was the point where I could get a real job and start making some money, and then I could drive officially.
Yeah. So I guess Alan was doing some illegal stuff.
And so, which allowed me to go to other towns and travel and try out different things. And so I met this Kung Fu instructor, and I remember specifically that this moment is we're working on a balance beam. It's Kung Fu. They do a lot of balance beams and poles and stuff like that type of training.
Okay.
And I had fell off repeated times, and Sifu David was like, you really struggle to keep your mind focused. You really need to do something about that. And I remember just in that moment being disheartened and yeah, okay, yes, I know. And it was tough because I looked up to this guy. I really like what he did. But he was the first one to answer me back and say, has anyone ever taught you how to do it? And I was like, no. And he goes, I'm going to fix it. He was a ex-Vietnam vet.
Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of my instructors were ex-military, which later you find out where a lot of the gentleman's code, the warrior's code, how all of that influenced that. But he started to work with me on breathwork, which led to different types of what they call them qigongs in Kung Fu, but it's basically how to harness and get control of your internal landscape, the noise that goes on in there all the time.
Okay.
And one of the first things he had me do, and you got to think, it's a 16 or 17-year-old teenager. He said, no more TV. I don't want you listening to any more radio. And,
Really?
and the third thing was no more gossip.
That's pretty funny.
You got to get away from that stuff. And I didn't think I could do it. And especially the radio stuff, because at that time, one of my jobs is I worked at a place called Penguin's Records and Tapes. And we installed radios. That's what I did during the day. Is I would, so I was around music all the time.
Oh, of course.
But I did it. Very difficult. It probably, what normally took the average kid 2 years to do, it took me 4, just because it was very difficult to silence all of that noise. But I eventually got to the point where I could do it. And It gave me more bandwidth mentally, and which had a heavy influence on life moving forward. And so moving on from there, probably up until around the 19 years
Can I
old.
just interrupt for 1 second? I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
What approaches did you use in addition to breath work to accomplish this? Was it just breath work and meditation type things?
Well, number one is proper breath work. And
Okay.
because one of the things, if you read the books, the breath is the bridge. It's the bridge of control physically, mentally, spiritually, and everything else to do with the human machine. Once you get control of your breath, you can control everything else.
Okay.
And so the second thing is to start to condition or get greater control of your mind, the internal landscape, the stuff that goes on in there that you are in control of, and the things that you are not in control of, your mental state. And that's one of the cool things about Kung Fu is it has an intelligent process for that. And thank God I got introduced to it at an early age because it gave me more control of the mind. And I went on to teach it to students later on, and I've got to see the multiplication of it, how it influenced them and how it allows them to go on and do great things. Past that is in Kung Fu, the way they look at it is there's only 2 physical states that you can have, expansion or contraction. And we can relate that to a joint in the body, but ultimately you can do it with every part of the body. We would refer to it as decompression, the ability to open or decompress the body, the joint. Sometimes you'll go to a chiropractor, they'll put you on a machine or they'll hang you on a rack in order to decompress your body.
Right.
Well, in Kung Fu, they teach you how to do that yourself. It's just a learned skill. You don't need machines. And, as human beings, we spend a tremendous amount of time under stress from our work driving in Atlanta traffic, sometimes conversations
well.
you have,
Yeah, right
the
here.
shitty diets we eat. It's contractive. So the philosophy is they want you to learn how to spend time in an expanded state. And they will do it on a daily basis, if possible. It's like a part of a morning routine as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
So that would be another area. You would work through your breath, your internal landscape, the ability to spend some time in an expansion or an expanded state. This has a huge effect on your body. And as you know, the physical culture is extremely important for anything we do, even recovery from mental trauma, anything like that. The ability to test and interact with the physical body is huge. So it starts to give you tools to condition it and develop a good physical culture. And I have to say, I learned it at a young age. And I remember at that time going, I don't need this. I'm Superman. I'm indestructible. I'll always be indestructible. And, of course, I hear that changes once you and I get out of our late 20s, and it was dead on.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the things that's allowed me to stay physically active in training, even barring some pretty severe injuries in life, into my 50s. And I can say it has directly influenced physical state and physical culture. So that is another area that was introduced to me from those instructors. And then strength training, because as you get a little farther along your journey, strength is not a timeless tool, but it has a huge influence on physical expression and health. And so they have methodology that they'll use in various systems of Kung Fu to maintain strength and grow strength. Maybe you travel a lot and you teach a lot, so you're not able to hit the gym every day. But there's certain training methods that you can do without any gear. You can just do it standing in a room. And done consistently, it will increase strength in the body. It kind of rewires your ability to flex at a higher level, to turn on more of the muscle you have. If you are familiar loosely with Pavel Testosterone, he pretty much brought kettlebelling into the United States.
All right.
And he has a methodology that is very similar, and I believe he learned it from Kung Fu. He just implemented it into his kettlebell training. So it's very similar. You look at different systems of Shaolin Kung Fu, they'll use tools after a certain point to do this training. But for me, that is one of the elements of a daily routine. Your breath, expansion and contraction, strength development, and your internal landscape development, sometimes referred to as meditation.
Right.
Right.
Right, good. So, I'm sorry, I had to interrupt you earlier. You were speaking about learning some methodologies and increasing your ability to control your thoughts.
And continuing with that.
If was that it, or I had interrupted, so I wasn't sure if you were
Well, I can
going further with
continue
it.
talking about it. One of the first things that they did with me was, they wanted to eliminate the noise that was being put in. Because sometimes that can go in there, and when you try to sit down and seek peace, quietness, you can't.
Right.
That stuff is in there, the drama is in there, the TV is in there, the phone, and everything that's going on. So it's very difficult in the beginning to turn it off. So that's one of the things that my teachers did was they said, well, we're just going to eliminate it if you can do it. And if you can't, well, you're just, not going to be able to be a student in that thing. Unfortunately,
Right.
I was able to. And one of the things I noticed when I started, and it honestly took about a year of trying to get away from noise. And it gave me the ability after a certain amount of time to sit down, and this was the other half of the training, and just find emptiness mentally. And it would give you more bandwidth during the day to focus on other things. Like maybe I wanted to spend it training, or I'm trying to do some self-education elements or school. And then once you got to that point where it's like anything, somebody explains how to do something, and you're like, how the heck do I do that? And you try, and one day you may even accidentally stumble into it, and you go, oh, that's what that feels like. And once you experience it, okay, well, I can do that. The light bulb comes on.
Yeah.
And so once you get to the point where you can attach to that silence, for me, it became easier. And I could start to do it on a daily basis. And, it's like anything you practice. If you get up in the mornings, you do sit-ups. In 6 months, you can do more.
Right.
Your mental landscape is the same way. And that's one of the reasons they'll make it a daily routine, is because it's just practice. Our goal is to gradually over time to give you more access to your mind tools in your internal landscape. So once I've kind of gone through that process, I was introduced to what would be the equivalent of plugging in programming or mental state development. In other words, you take control of that internal voice. What do we want it to say? How do we want it to respond? And to certain, maybe something happens during the day, and that little hamster just goes crazy.
Right.
And so I've got to train that guy that, something just major happens, not a good day, and we look at it and go, okay, good, here are my 3 options. There's the best one. This is where I'm going. It doesn't even, oh, God, this happened, and I just spend less time in that negative slump. And, this is important because as warriors, we're the people, and this is a conversation we had prior to turning on the mic, we're the ones that take action. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that as warriors, we prepare for that, right? And one of the major elements of taking action, you're either going to put it in a compartment, or you're just going to get a better way of dealing with it. To run through your OODA loop, see what's going to go, what you have in front of you, make an intelligent decision, and go. And those guys are the ones that generally will step forward first.
Right.
And some guys are just wired that way. And thank God for them, too, because they're the ones that save our asses in the world. And, as you said prior to starting this conversation, they give us freedom. They build the environment and culture that we live in. So going back to that development, that's one of the reasons they wanted to develop that, because they knew control of your mind is one of the major elements of, existing as a warrior.
Absolutely. And it's very, very applicable to current day. This podcast, for instance, I'm trying to reach vets and first responders
Mm-hmm.
who are going through it, so to speak, PTSD and dealing with trauma issues. And as we both know, the mind is such a powerful muscle.
Oh, yeah.
It dictates the way you live your life. And it's amazing that negative voice sometimes seems so loud. It's like screaming. With that positive one, it's almost like a whisper. And what do you tell guys or girls or both that you're teaching when they're trying to get their minds right? They come to you and, for instance, I came to you, I tell you what's going on, I think I'm suffering from PTSD. I just don't know how to get this out of my head. How do you speak to them? What advice do you give them? What exercises, how would you guide them at that point?
Well, one of the first things is just to speak from my experience. And I always tell my students that I work with is, you'll do this way quicker than me. Anything to do with this gourd of mine took way longer than it has anyone I've ever taught. But in the beginning, when you introduce a mind tool, an internal program, you want to change what that voice is saying, or you want to amplify what the good one is saying. At first, it's like, it's hard. It's like anything else. It's like,
yeah.
I'll do it, and maybe I achieve it, and then 5 minutes later, there's that thing back again.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. So then I have to do it again. And then 10 minutes later, it's back again. There it is. We have a moment where it's like, this is just not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this a lot physically in martial arts too. It might not work 200 times before one day it works, just like
Yeah.
Coach told me it would. And in my experience, that's what happened. At first I had to recognize those moments and address them with that internal tool. And over time, it started to become automatic. But then over some additional time, I can look back now at life, and it becomes the way you think. You become that programming that you build. So you'll after an event, something will come in your head, and you'll just mentally deal with it, and you'll go, "Oh man, I dealt with that like I was trained to deal with it." I've had situations where it wasn't just me; it was me and a couple other people. Something happened, and then I just started to deal with it and process it. And then afterwards, the guys that were with me in that event, they were like, "Man, we were, busy being pissed off, and you got on the phone and made a call and got some people involved, and you fixed it." And I didn't even realize, that's interesting, but that's the training I got mentally my entire life. So that's one of the things I would start with, is to go, it is possible, but it does take time. And beginning with the end in mind, build that internal programming exactly like you want it. Sometimes we'll tweak it and go, well, it's not going to work for me. Yes, it will.
Yeah.
You just have to trust in it and give it time like anything. It's like going to the gym.
Yep.
It takes time. You don't always see progress immediately. And when you do, it might just be a little bit.
Yeah.
Then you might have a leap, but then you kind of come back. And we have to know that that's the process, is it's not all straight up.
Yeah. You're not going to get that linear line a lot of
Correct.
times. I think it's very important what you just said, though. The mental mirrors the physical in that it's going to take time. It's not an instantaneous thing. Just like it's typically not an instantaneous thing that got you to those lows. Potentially you experienced one traumatic event and got you there. But I think for the most part, most people don't kind of experience their traumatic and PTSD issues like that. It's just a collective over time that gets them to this point.
Right. And then to finish with your question and to add something else, once I give them my experience with it, one of the first things is the same thing that was given with me, is let's turn off the noise. Where's the noise? And, it doesn't mean just access or being around electronics. There's certain elements that will be connected to it, like social media.
Right.
That can be some negative stuff.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
And it will pull you in. It's designed to pull your brain in and not let go of you.
Yeah.
Drama. It's interesting that my teachers, when I was a teenager, knew, say, you got to get away from that drama. Whatever it is with the girls, you need to cut that loose and get away from it. Because it'll give you access back. And with the pursuit of finding some peace, the ability to go downstairs in the living room, nobody else is around, sit, have a moment of exhale, and quieten the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then, this leads into the ability to think, which doesn't happen a lot now. But it also opens up the doors to start to reprogram some of that internal landscape and put in some of the things we need, some of the verbiage we need to hear. And then just move forward with it like anything else. Some of the most effective things are simple. They're not super complicated. It's just doing it, getting up every day and doing the little simple things that make a big change. And then the other thing I would say is exactly what you pointed out, is the relation of the connection between the mind and the body. I see this a lot in martial arts, multiple different martial arts. And I think too, individuals like yourself, alpha, right? Mm-hmm. You get out there and you do something, you take action. Most of the individuals that I've worked with like that, they are physical machines. So I have found that maybe I have a mental tool that I want to implement, and I can explain it, or I can give you a physical expression of it. So, and what better way to do that than training? That doesn't
Right.
have to be martial arts necessarily. I've done it with firearms work multiple times in the gym because it is a environment of struggle, depending on how it's designed. And we are machines built for struggle. It's what polishes our steel, and it creates moments for us to learn. Now, sometimes as alpha machines, like I said, we are very physical machines. We have to learn it in a physical expression.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like me, sometimes it takes several times, and then I'll have that moment where I go, "Oh, wait a minute, that's what my coach told me a year ago,"
Right.
and I just now get it. But and for myself, I was very physical, and I found out that it was a way on self-education. If I was having a struggle with something that was just like a mental tool, I would seek out a physical expression of that and put myself in that environment. Then I would start to understand it more and its implementation into the computer system.
Okay. That's a
That's
great
why it's
point.
important to move.
Yeah.
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 You have to have a physical culture of some type. I think it's life 101. When you look at starting to plug in what you're doing on a daily basis, what is your physical culture? It doesn't have to look like mine, but it's something that will move that machine in some way. And
Yeah, I mean, it's a yin and a yang between the mental and the physical, and I don't think you're going to be proficient or as optimal as you can be if you don't have both of them in alignment. I mean, you have to have a structure to your daily activities,
Mhm.
and they have to include physical exercise in some way, shape, or form. You don't have to be in the gym, looking like a bodybuilder or anything like that. We're not
Mhm.
saying that, but there has to be something in there. Um, Especially if you're of that warrior mindset, it's the mental and the physical as well. And it's the way you've always been typically. I mean, I don't think you find anyone. It's few and far between warriors who've not had, physical exercise is a big component of their life.
Right. Some sort of physical expression.
Yeah,
Right. Totally agree. And I mean, I think
absolutely.
it's important to have an intelligent program put together for yourself.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's overly focused on strength, but the ability to open the body, breath, in my opinion, is, as I stated earlier, a huge element of that. And properly trained, it'll change your system. And this has a huge influence on you physically as you age as well.
Right.
A lot of your explosiveness and a lot of your power will come from proper breath work.
It's amazing how effective it is and all the systems that it affects. So, all right. So now you're getting into your late teen years. I guess you're approaching high school graduation. What direction do you decide to go after school?
Well, I was bought and sold. In my mind,
Yeah.
this is what I was going to do. The family thought I was crazy. Friends thought everybody thought I was crazy. You can't make any money doing that. And I didn't care. It's like if I could make enough to buy my meals,
Yep.
put some clothes on, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And then around 19 was the first probably major life lesson that was delivered to me. I had a head-on collision with a construction vehicle, very large construction vehicle. And the vehicle was connected to probably one of the largest construction companies in the world. And they came into our lane and hit us head on. Yeah. And it was a pretty traumatic experience for me. I only
Imagine.
recently got to the point where I could even talk about it. Just to be here having
Really?
this. Oh, yeah. Actually, Jason Redman is a good friend of mine, and he introduced me to speaking. He coaches me, and he's one of the reasons why I try to step outside of my box into that box. And
Yeah. I'm actually attending his summit in August. My wife and I are going to a speaking summit.
you're gonna have fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Looking forward
so
to
hate
it.
that I'm missing this one. I've got an event I'm teaching in Atlanta, and I was talking to
Too
Erica.
bad.
I was like, I'm gonna fly up and be there on Sunday, but they're not gonna do their thing on Sunday.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, too
anyway,
bad. I thought I was going to meet you.
kills me.
Yeah.
But due to Jay, he was talking to me about life, and he goes, "Well, tell me about some of the major things. And I'd never talked to anyone about this. I just tucked it away. And
Can I ask you why? I mean, you're so mentally strong. You figure anything comes your way, you know,
most
just
things.
conquer. This one was kind of a roadblock for you.
Yeah, there was a passenger in the vehicle, and here I go. I remember waking up, and the steering wheel in the car was very distorted, and it was up close to me. And I was trying to get out. Glass was broke, everything was trashed, and I'm looking at my current situation, and I decided at that point I'm stuck. Hopefully, someone's coming, and we were on a back road, country road. There was nobody, and so in my mind I'm like, well, somebody will come along in a minute. And then I looked over to my right, and my passenger, she had gone through the windshield, and the only thing that kept her in the vehicle was the hood had crumpled up, and it was on the other side of the glass. And she'd come back in the car, and her head was laying facing me. And one of the things that haunted me is the look in her eyes, and several other things. She was there was some foam at her mouth. It was bad. And yeah, both of us, it was a bad day. And so I guess I had just tucked it away. And even having this conversation here, I'm doing pretty good talking about it.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
I mean, the first time Jay asked me to tell the story, and here's this hero in front of me, and I'm just like, waterworks. I came home, and I was having telling somebody about it. One of my good buddies, who's a student of mine, and he trained with me for like 24 years, never seen anything like that. Here I go again, just really emotional.
You know what? We need to do it more. We don't cry enough, man. We think it's weakness. It's actually strength.
Well, and a lot of them were surprised. They were like, I never knew this happened. I never knew you had this wreck.
Yep.
Why didn't you tell me that? I've known you for like 30 years. And I was just like, well, it's just, I don't talk about it until recently. And now, because of Jay, here I am getting on a stage and talking about this event in front of people. And one of the reasons it's a major event for me is because it completely crushed all the bones in my nose. Like from right about there is an implant.
Okay.
No bone. And a severe head injury. And the doc was like, look, you're done. You can't do anything that's traumatic, sport-based, much less have people hit you in the head. And he goes, you could fall down and everything's just going to get worse. So in that moment, here, my entire life was coming, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And everybody, even prior to the event, they're like, you're crazy. You don't need to do that. But at that, they'll, yep, you're done. There's not going to be any doing that. No, mom, dad, everybody, all my friends. I had a really good friend who was equally into it as much as, even he was like, yeah, man, you're done. You can't listen to the doc. And I had one instructor, Mike, and he was a Burmese Bondo instructor. And up to that point, I had achieved some high-level rank in 2 or 3 different systems. And he came and he saw me at the doctor's office or whatever. And he was like, what are you going to do? Well, I don't know. And he goes, I want you to look at what you achieved up to this point. He goes, it's abnormal. Are you just going to put it all away? Or are you going to use the same mental tools that got you here now to beat this and move forward? And Mike was the only person that said that to me. Everyone else was like, doom and gloom, you're done.
Yeah.
And it's the equivalent in the 80s where we would say, fuck it. Mm-hmm. Hopefully I can say that on your show.
Hell yeah.
But that was that moment, and that's what I did. I said, you know what? If it kills me, I'll die happy.
Yep.
Because I love this stuff. And so I'm just going to do it, and I'll have to adjust the best way I can. But I'm going to do this, and really the rest is history. I've been in that industry ever since. So
good for you.
Yeah, it took some adjustments, but you know what? Whatever you put your mind to, you will achieve. And so you'll achieve that. You will arrive at that moment and then wonder why you didn't shoot higher.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happened to me in life. You know, I'm like, I am going to do this thing. I'm going to become this thing right here. Write it down. I'm going to do it. And then I got there and was like, dude, I should have wrote more down. I should have shot higher. And
Yeah.
I had to replan and reorganize and
recalibrate everything.
Right. So, you know, not only can you do it, you can surpass what you think you're capable of. Don't let your own mental landscape hold you back from what you're capable of.
Super important message. Powerful message.
So that moved forward. I had some opportunities to go to work full time in a martial arts academy, which means you're living at the academy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure.
Making enough money to buy some T-shirts and food. But I didn't really care. At that time, I didn't want to be in the industry to be a business person. A lot of people will, I'm going to start this business and I just want to be in the industry. I just wanted to get up every day at 6. I have this terrible habit from my dad. I just wake up at 5.
Do you? Oh,
Yeah.
you poor guy.
It's
I'm not
automatic.
a morning person. Really?
Yeah, if I stay up
Crazy.
till 3 or 4, still, bing, wide awake at 5.
Holy
It's just, thanks, Dad. It's a
Yeah,
superpower
exactly.
now. I'm grateful for it. But so
That's great.
I wanted somebody to meet me at the academy in the morning and train with me all day, which people wouldn't. So I realized I need multiple people, and I need to make enough money so I can buy lunch and dinner and feed myself before I teach classes at night. And that was the life I wanted. And at the time, those were called private lessons. But I was very fortunate that people would say, hey, I want to come and train for X amount of time. Here's some money. And did that probably early 90s. I became a professional martial artist for 4 or 5 years and blew every bit of it. Had nothing to show for it, but did a lot of training. And it was an extension of what I did when I was a child. I was like, well, I've got some money. I want to go train with the best,
Yeah.
So I started looking around, who's number one? And that's when I got introduced to like Francis Fong in Atlanta as a Wing Chun master. Guru Dan Inosanto, who's the protege to Bruce Lee. That led to meeting Eric Paulson, and then Pedro Sauer, Ajahn Chai, and so on and so forth. And I would go.
Well, you say blowing his money, but I think I need to know that you're investing in yourself. There's no blowing of money. This is not a wasteful thing you're doing. Like you're just investing in something you love to do, gaining knowledge. Um, you know,
Well, I've got to say, at that time, I just looked at it as I'm doing what I want to do.
yep.
You know,
Good for
I
you.
didn't really see it as an investment. I guess I call it blowing money because everybody around me was like, "You're blowing all your money. You should rent an apartment." No,
Yeah. People don't realize what you're doing. You absolutely love, and how many people can say that in their life.
I'm good.
Very few.
I'm going to keep doing this for a while. Now
Exactly,
later, I
so.
was like, "Wow, that was great." You know, it was an investment.
Yep.
So I probably did that in Tennessee for 4 or 5 years, and then eventually I wanted to make a move to get closer to a couple of my instructors. And it was either going to be Atlanta or it was going to be L.A. because
Okay.
Francis Fong was in Atlanta, Guru Dan Inosanto, Eric Paulson, those guys were in California. And I was dating a young lady at the time. Specifically remember her because when she asked me out on a date, I realized I didn't have a pair of jeans or nothing. All I owned was sweatpants and T-shirts.
That's
And she's like, I guess actually the first date was her taking me to buy something that actually looked decent.
We're going to Marshalls.
So she had family in Atlanta, and so we ended up, okay, that's going to be the choice. I'm going to come down, and I came down and started training with Sifu Fong and started working toward opening an academy here in Atlanta,
Okay.
and then move forward to present day. Probably after the move, I got introduced to the Executive Protection Institute out of Virginia. They're the oldest bodyguard training school in the United States.
Okay.
And they had the typical death spiral of defensive tactics. Everybody has it. You know, you have in the flavor of the month, the flavor of the decade. You train that system. It's great. Teacher goes away. You put your gear and your kit on and realize, I can't do that stuff with all this on while in my car or sandwiched between two cars. Okay, who's next? So they go to the next flavor, and it's a spiral. And they had gotten to the point with EPI where they were like, we're just not going to do defensive tactics anymore. And that's when I met the founder of the school. And I said, look, I can design something specifically for what you do, but I need to get introduced to what you do. So I went through the school, had a great opportunity to start doing the work. And as I learned more from that culture, I also interviewed a lot of the guys that taught at the academy, and they have some tremendous instrucors that come in there. These guys have done protection for some of the most influential families on the planet for 40, 50 years.
Wow.
And I'd ask them questions. I go, how often did you make a fist? Do you ever hit anybody in your career? How often do you put your hands on people? And it's totally not what you think, looking at it from the surface. And we built the DT program for them. We've been teaching it there over 17 years now, twice a year. And that led to building additional programs for like Tactical 21 out of Virginia Beach, the Vehicle Dynamics Institute out of New Jersey, Royal Range out of Nashville, Tennessee. And that's what initially I got introduced to Jason Redman for, was he wanted a program that would fit his philosophy for his Overcome and Survive program. And he wanted it to fit the everyday average citizens and what they might run into. And so I met him, built the program for him, and that led into a great relationship. And he's done more for me by far than I've ever done for him. He introduced me to speaking, and multiple other things. And anyway, all that's to say that that's the growth we were speaking about earlier. I never would have imagined, And when I originally started the path, well, I'll open an academy, and that'll be who I am.
Right.
I never thought I would be doing the things I'm now, running the businesses that I'm running now. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, your bio is just so expansive. So how do you go from, martial arts is one thing, and then gun instruction is another, and then, rappelling is another. Now you do all of the above. So how do you go from martial arts into learning about, gun systems and training as a weapons instructor?
Well, all the way back when I was 14 and 15, that one Kung Fu instructor that said he's going to help me get control of my mind, he owned an expeditions company. And it was this big building, and he taught Kung Fu. His class was inside that building on Thursday nights. And he was one of the instructors that was out of my town. So we would travel over to see him on Thursdays. We'd take class. We'd get all beat up. And then at like 10 or 11 at night, our plan was to drive back to where we came from. And we did the first couple of times, but then he was like, hey guys, why don't you just crash on the judo mat and then go back in the morning? And we're like, oh, can we do that? Sure. And as a matter of fact, you guys interested in just hanging out this weekend and helping me with some of my clients? And we're kids, so the idea of hanging off the side of a mountain or walking through the forest with a compass, we're like, heck yeah, that sounds like we'll do that for free. So it ended up being a regular thing. That's how I got introduced to diving, mountaineering, rappelling, and it's always been a passion for me. I've just not known for it on the front end, but I have pursued it my entire life. Even to this day, generally I'm involved with 1 to 2 instructor or rappel master training events in Alabama annually. Not teaching as much diving as I used to. At one point, was cave certified, dove multiple caves around Florida. until I got to the point where I couldn't find a good partner. You need a really good partner for that. And I was like,
Yeah, I
okay,
can imagine.
I'm going to put that down. And that just, led into, that's what originally brought me into those things. The firearms world was getting introduced to EPI, which led into doing work for law enforcement, obviously getting to meet different military personnel and that influence. And, I like to think outside the box with how I teach. We were discussing this earlier. I don't like to just blindly follow what a system says is reality.
Right.
I have found that it commonly is not. So sometimes that it's a great source and it's better than nothing, but it can be a disservice. And one of the I follow a blueprint that helps me put together my training and build programs. And one of the major pillars of that is firearms. And I realized, I've spent a lifetime training on this side of this scale.
Yeah.
I haven't with that firearm, and I need to fix that. So just like I did with the martial arts, I'm starting to look around for who's the good instructors. Who can I find? And I'm a big believer in mentors.
Me too.
Common now, I'll watch a video, but when we grew up, if you wanted to learn to do something, they became a mentor. You had to go, hey, will you teach me? I'd like to come spend some time with you doing what you do, so maybe I can learn. And that is such a powerful thing. And the principle of getting in the room, just proximity. So I knew it had power because of how I lived my life. So I started to look around for those individuals in the firearms industry. And I'm very fortunate at that time that I had already built some network connections and started to work on it. And then, I kind of saw a gap in that as well. There's a gap between that DT and what happens on the range, that close quarter gun manipulation, and started to work on that myself more, probably about 16, 17 years ago. What that looks like is in jiu-jitsu, which is a grappling system. You're basically rolling around trying to submit or pin someone on the ground. They don't commonly wear a firearm or a straight blade in that class.
Right.
And that's one of the first things I did is I bought a training kit, a training gun, holster, and a straight blade, and put it on. And I'd tell my partners, part of one of the submissions is you pull this out of the holster and point it at me and say, bang, you win. If you could pull the knife out and use it against me, you win. So it changed everything I did. All the way back to the fundamental basics. I had to go and, I've got to change this. The whole idea was not built around it. And it's been a huge study for me for the last 17 years, not only grappling, striking, hand fighting, pummeling, the whole gambit. And I can talk your ear off about this, so.
Oh, it's so interesting to me that yet, you've created the system. So let me ask you, at the core of your system, a stand-up game, if you will, you're teaching a beginner how to fight. What is kind of your core thought or belief? Like, how do you start teaching someone from scratch? If you give them like an overview of what you want to teach them to either learn or be like, how does that look?
Well, again, it'll kind of depend on what they're looking for. Some individuals will say, I just want to learn jiu-jitsu. Just teach me that. And so, but some are, I want to build something that will fit into my environment and fit what I do every day. So if we're looking at it through that lens, then one of the first things we got to take into consideration is the legal ramifications from where you live.
Sure.
A lot of times if you do what is taught to you in a class, it's assault. If I line up like that and you walk in the room and go, that's my bad guy. And so I may be responding to someone saying they're going to injure me in some way. So it's not that mechanically those things are incorrect, but legally they might not be the right thing to do, especially in today's culture because cameras and video is everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got people actively wanting to capture it. Like you kick off a fight in a parking lot, everybody's like, this is going to look good on Instagram. I'm going to make a reel.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody wants it.
Yeah. Do you know
So
Zach Ferguson by any chance? Is he familiar to you? A former SEAL. He's got a pretty decent social media presence.
does sound familiar, yeah.
So his partner, he owns a security company. Another former SEAL, Mike. I'm drawing a blank on his last name, but he was out at a beach in California a couple of months ago, and I don't know what this tweaker was doing, but he was doing things he shouldn't have been doing. And Mike put him down on the ground. They called 911. They were waiting the police, but bam, you see this guy recording, and the guy Mike's like, "Hey man, can you put this down and put that down and come help me?" He's like, "Nah, man, just gonna record and make sure everyone's safe." Which, we know he didn't give a shit about everyone being
No.
safe. If he did, he put that phone down and help out Mike. But it's unbelievable when something's going down. I wouldn't even have. First of all, if something goes down, you and I are running to the trouble to see if we can help. But I can't believe these people even have a thought in the midst of, turmoil. First thing you do is grab that phone because they want to see if they can go viral. It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah, it's culture is wired a little different these days.
Yeah.
But based on that, what does it look like legally? How does it look visually? You have to take that into consideration, and a lot of martial arts don't take that into consideration. How's it accepted socially? Because if you think about it, even in law enforcement, there's things you could have done 20 years ago that you cannot do
Oh,
now. And
absolutely.
it might not be because it's wrong. It's just because society doesn't like it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. The optics.
So we have to take that into consideration too. And so that's how we would start. We'd have that conversation and go, we've got to maintain these elements. And then what do you wear? Where do you go? What do you do for work? Where do you run into these problems that you're preparing for? And we start to build it around that. And there's certain, main pillars. I call them primal environments that you have to have answers for. Firearms, blunt and edged weaponry, striking, obviously,
Yep.
standing, grappling, hand fighting, pummeling, and clinch work, and then grappling, or let's say ground, because in my opinion, there's five actually major ways to fight on the ground, and grappling is one of them. So we
Did you
would
just name
use
the other
it.
one? I'm just curious.
Say again.
You just name the other four. I was just curious as to those concepts.
Number one's grappling. It's a pretty obvious answer, and
Yep.
I actually divide that one into two parts: grappling and EDC grappling. Because, as I said earlier, when I put the kit on and I started playing, it became an entirely different system for me.
Yeah.
Even the techniques I used, and for those that are familiar with it, like in jiu-jitsu, if you're pinned underneath somebody, they'll escape side control, and they'll commonly go to a guard position. Guard is a good place because you can use your hands and you use your legs against them. But it also serves the gun up. If you have a gun on, you're literally giving it to them. You're bringing it in front of them. So though it is a very common technique, taking the gun into consideration, you can't do that. One of our main requirements is the weapon system has to move away from the threat at all times. So you have to have a technique that does that. We also need to be disengaging the ground as we do it. I'd like access to the feet so that I can deliver structural damage as I'm getting out of dodge, and I should have the ability to access my weapon system as I exit. So we look for all of those elements in techniques. So you can see right away the list of techniques is totally going to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the next
100%.
one would be anti-grappling or counter-grappling. So that is a study of grappling and what, in general, they need in order to be successful and how we can use it against that person.
Okay.
Because you may, I don't care who you are, you're going to run into somebody better than you.
Oh yeah.
Younger, faster, stronger,
Yeah.
more knowledge.
I've never had that cockiness to think that you're not, because there's always.
So, in that moment, if you're in a parking lot between two vehicles, it'd probably be good to know how to cheat, and that's anti-grappling. The next one is ground fighting, and an example of that would be, let's say, I fall down on the ground, and you want to come over and engage me, but you don't want to just walk over and put yourself in the guard, because that's what we do every day. So I need to have tactics that don't allow me to use my grappling, and you can still fight me. And generally, too, even for me, if I see that you're that type of thinker, grappling might not work for me. I have to switch to a ground fighting idea. And there may be more than one of you. You may have a
Right.
wingman. So I have to have answers for that. And I have to have a plan for that.
Yeah.
Because that can definitely happen. And that is ground fighting. So the next section one is, I refer to it as dog boxing. I did borrow that term from the Chinese boxers because I liked it. But dog boxing is out of position fighting. A lot of systems, they teach you to get in a particular position in order to implement your art. And as bad guys, our plan is to take you out of the element.
Yeah.
If you're a striker, if I can pick you up, slam you on the hood of the car and start punching you, that's good for me because you didn't train for that.
Yeah.
Well, dog boxer trains for that. They train against walls, corners, in seated positions like booths. At our old academy, we had to have furniture built because we destroyed it all the time so that we could train in and around it. Inside the car, between two cars. Sometimes you're sandwiched between bodies. So that's what a dog boxer does is he has an intelligent plan of learning the mechanics of destructive force in all of those positions. And it's on that list because a lot of people look at being on the ground as out of position. And unless you're a jiu-jitsu guy, then you're a shark and you're in the water.
Yeah, exactly.
But we also want to take into consideration those other elements. And then grounded weapons fighting. You can do a search right now on YouTube and get all kinds of adding a gun to jiu-jitsu, and it's fantastic. You definitely should play with that because it's real world. It can happen.
Okay.
But if I were on my feet and I saw that we were going to have an exchange, I would make space, right?
Yep.
I would also probably take an angle. I cut to the right or left because I'm trying to, again, get inside your OODA loop and get an advantage. And I would also like to be ahead of time. I'd like to be the guy to get my firearm out first. Well, we can't really achieve those three elements in a grappling environment. So how do I do that? So based on that, you can say, well, I've got to change some things. I need space. I need a superior angle. And I also want to get my weapon system online fast. So you can see how the tactics are going to change. It's not the same as grappling with a gun. Right. You're going to be doing an entirely different methodology. And that's one of the reasons it's kind of worded that way. We do both. Okay. And a lot of people will grapple with different weapon systems. It's not uncommon. But looking at it in that second sense, I don't see a lot of. It's one of the reasons we'll focus on it a little more. And those are the different areas on the ground.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's great that you guys cover everything. Obviously, everything is so fluid when you're in a fight that training like yours just covers. Yeah, I don't want to say everything because there's stuff that's going to happen that you've probably never seen in your life or even thought about.
I learn
it's
all the time.
Yeah. I always say, I never say I've seen it all because no, you haven't, man. I don't care what you've seen.
Yeah,
no one's seen it all.
When we test things out with the guys at the academy, it's like an unspoken challenge to put me or put one of the other guys in a situation that they're not ready for. I actually caught that on video probably a couple of months ago. The neighbor, we had a new neighbor move in at the building next to the academy, and they had all these pallets stacked up outside, probably waist high. And, we'd trained against dumpsters, brick walls, sidewalks, trees. But David, one of my guys, grabbed me, drove me across the parking lot and slams me on top of these things. And they were uneven. They're rocking all over the place. And after it was over with, I'm like, you know what? That was new. I've done tables. We've trained on training vehicles, but I've not been in that situation before. I tried to do some things, and the pallet started to come apart. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's great training regimen. You have no idea what the hell's happening from 1 minute to the next. One of your crazy stories is the craziest thing that I saw in my 30 years as a cop. Sunday night, it's approaching 8 p.m. Me and my buddy are just about to clear a meal. I get a call for a car accident. Someone else's sector, but she was already eating, so I'm like, I'll grab it. I get there, it looks like a simple rear ender. They were heading south. I'm going north. I see him. I flip around, get behind them. Asia guy, he's out of his car. He got rear-ended. He just keeps saying he hit me. So I look at the other guy. He's still sitting in his car. He's got blood on his shirt. and airbag had deployed. I'm like, "You're okay?" He's like, starts talking, slurring his words. I'm like, "Son of a bitch!" You tell he was drunk, and I call for the other unit because I'm not handling the DV. She's got to do the arrest. I'll handle the car accident. So my buddy pulls up. So it's the first car, the one that rear-ended him, me behind him. My buddy pulls up to our right. It's the start of a right turn lane, and I go back and speak to him. Just then, a fire chief gets there because rescue had been called. He pulls ahead of everyone into a landscape business right there, gets out of his truck. I go over to my buddy, tell him what's going on. He goes over to speak to the fire chief. As he's doing so, I start walking up the passenger side of the car that rear ended, and I see the guy reach over for something, and I can see he comes up with a knife. So I scream to my buddy, he's got a knife. I run up to the passenger door. He locks it. As I'm running around, unbeknownst to me, the original blood that I'd seen on his shirt, which I thought was from him getting hit with the deployed airbag, was from him cutting his throat. We had arrested him the night before for a DWI. He got out, got his drink on, got drunk again, rear-ended this guy, was suicidal. So as I'm running around the car, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. He's now got the knife in his throat, and he's pulling it away and sawing in his throat at the same time. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen. So I run around to the driver's side. I go to open his door. He locks it. So I always replace the end cap on my flashlight with a window punch. So I take that out. Boom. Beautiful shot. One shot. The whole window caves in onto him inside. But unfortunately, it covered. Well, the lock itself was flush, so I was not able to unlock it. And now I can't reach in because the whole panel of glass is there. He proceeds to, now he's soaring, but he stops. He slices his throat again. He takes puts a knife in his left hand, and now starts hitting himself right, must have been 40 marks. He's trying to drive the knife into his head. He's wearing a winter coat. It's in January, so I'm trying to figure out what to do. I'm calm, but I'm like, I can't let this guy kill himself. So my first thought is to go into the rear seat, but I'm like, if something happens and he gets a knife on me and I got to pop this guy, they're going to be like, why'd you go in the truck, put yourself in that position? Um, so now I'm like, you know what, I got to hit him with the taser. So he had a really puffy jacket on, and the darts wouldn't have been effective, so I had to go really high. So I hit him one here and one at his neck. And it's so funny because the first thing I thought of was the hangover. In the face. So my partner now at this point runs over to the passenger window with the fire chief. He's got an axe. He pops that window. My partner hits him with the taser. Same shot on the right side, forehead and neck. And we're cycling back and forth. And his muscles are contracting. It's a 5-second cycle on a taser. So every time we cycle, he stops. But as soon as it stops, he resumes again because he's not dropping a knife. So now I'm like, man, how am I going to end this? And I literally, he had probably 30, 40 marks going down there. Puts it back in his neck, starts sawing it again. I'm like, as it's happening, I'm like, even in my head, I'm like, this is freaking nuts, man. So finally, I take out my asp and I just start wearing his face out. I'm like, I have to get this guy to stop. And with that, he just drops a knife. He's never screamed, never said a word, no profanity. No, there was zero sound from this guy the whole interaction. And he drops a knife and he just turns around, casually opens the door, gets out, blood pouring out. Cuff him up, take him to the hospital. Of course, he survives. If it was anyone else, they would have been dead like, 3 seconds into that whole thing. And that was it. Last I ever heard of it. But
Holy shit, Mike.
again, it's one of those things like you train for everything. Yeah, well, tell me what you're going to do in that case, because how the hell you train for that?
Damn,
It
man.
was, yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts.
Thank you for your service.
That's one of those stories. Like, I had almost 30 years on at the time, and I'm telling a story. And, a lot of times you have time on, people telling stories like, yeah, okay. Anyone that I told that story to, like, I had their full attention the entire time. I went out to the range. I had to get my taser. They download the file as to how many cycles and how long, at the length of the cycle. So as I'm down there, the guy's like, "Man, you cycled the thing 6 times?" So I tell him the story. He's like, "What?" He goes in the room, only firearms instructors there. I'm telling the story to these guys. Every one of these guys is like, "Holy shit!" Like, it was just fucking nuts.
Yeah,
But you can't prepare for everything.
haven't seen that.
Let me ask you, in that case, what do you think you would have done? Obviously a Monday morning quarterbacking, but something that would have been effective, would you have done?
Well, I can see your hesitation to try to grab the hand because he's anchored in the car.
Yeah.
So it's actually an advantage if the guy knew how to use it, and that's obviously going to damage you and your hand, which you need to do your job. So you did the right thing. I mean, you have to get inside of his OODA loop. He had enough mental presence to make a plan and start doing that plan. And the taser didn't sound like it was interrupting it enough. So, I mean, you saved his life, dude.
Yeah, I mean that's what it came down to. He didn't kill himself. And literally, I was thinking about it. I always do like after action reports on anything I've ever done. I was always paid, very, very big attention to tactics. And I was like, I don't think I could have, done anything different. There was at no point where I was like, I should have done this. Man, I fucked
Well,
up.
his hands are probably covered in blood.
Yeah, they were covered in blood,
Yeah,
and,
and that's
and
like,
additionally, when the window rolled over, I couldn't grab the
yeah,
door for any what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my God,
the
not a
handle.
pivot. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't grab it to get strength to kind of propel me into the car or anything like that.
Right,
So everything was kind of off of that door as well. Again, I didn't want to go in the rear seat because if he somehow got that knife on me, now I'm in a deadly force
right.
situation. But they're going to be like, you put yourself there, even though he's going to kill him. I don't know.
Well, yeah, even
So
if you grab a hold of the hand with blood on it, it's going to be like baby oil.
mhm.
It's just a bad day.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it was nuts. Best outcome we could have had, I think,
sir, I
for
have to
what
agree
happened.
with your tactics. Knock them
Thank
out.
you. Hey, if Sifu cleared me, I'm good to go, man.
Sound like a good move.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So let me ask you. So currently, you're teaching. Do you have your own school now, or several schools? Or are you teaching tactics at different facilities throughout the U.S.?
Yeah, most of the time I'm on the road traveling and teaching. We have an academy here in Woodstock, Georgia, and when I'm in town, I will be in class,
Okay.
and I teach there quite a bit, private lessons and stuff. But there's months, like the month of May, I am gone the entire month. I usually have like a teaching tour, so I'm at different cities teaching. Then I get to come home for a little while. And do all the work nobody thinks you do, answer the
Yeah,
emails and all that stuff. So
that's amazing. I'll tell you. I think to me, there are people that I work with throughout my career that were definitely not prepared for the job. It was extremely obvious. I think that a form of PTSD occurs with first responders, mainly police officers who don't go to work prepared because I think they're constantly in this state of worry. If it kicks off, they know deep inside their head
yeah.
they're not capable of handling themselves. So I truly think it's like a self-induced form of anxiety and PTSD. Like, what would your advice be to someone who's entering a career to be a police officer? As far as seriousness and, you know, the requirement that they train on their own.
Well, training wise, get your hands on good training. And I would say, as you're choosing, it should be something that relates to what you do, your kit, what you drive, and where you're placed when these things happen. It's like, do they commonly happen in and around vehicles? Statistically, that's very common. So your methodology or tactics should include that. Getting pinned up against the car sometimes feels like it's out of position. But if you learn what to do, it's actually not. They're doing you a favor, especially with kit on. It's a second set of legs. So, find good training that's going to be related to what you're doing. And I think, train. And sometimes people in their minds will go, well, I can't go to class every week. That's okay. If you can go once a month, but you have an intelligent plan, that's still better than just going, well, I'll wing it. I've got security teams that I work with maybe 2 to 3 times a year. And they're constantly traveling with the client, so they only get training days maybe every 2 months. But if it's intelligent and they know what to do, you're still going to get benefit out of it. So
Right.
invest some time as much as you can. And one of the things we hope to get out of that is confidence. We want you guys to know, hey, if I have to go put my hands on this person, I can do it. And that confidence, from what I've seen, makes a huge difference.
Hmm.
Again, because worried, I go, I don't really know what to do. What if I get too close? I don't know. So that knowing not only can help you in the situation if it does come up, but mentally it helps you leading up to it. You're like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm
yeah,
pretty confident. I know, and that'll release a little bit of that. I don't
yeah.
know.
Command presence, as we call it. These guys smell fear. They could see fear.
I
You
agree.
get out of that car and you're fearful, man, they are like wild animals. They're predators. And they will be on you as opposed to a guy who gets out of the car. You get out of the car with that self confidence and looking through them. They know you're not the guy to be trifled with.
Yeah, they can pick it up. I mean,
Yep.
their brains are wired that way. So, and I think on top of that, I would say intelligent breath work. Get someone that knows what they're doing to teach you some methodology for relaxation. You know, if you have an event, a good tool that you can go home, spend some time alone, and release. Not just tuck that stuff away. Get it out. And then, you know, obviously there's other ways to get it out as well, you know, talking to somebody and,
Right.
you know, letting that stuff out. But from my experience, the breath work has been one of the main things, you know. I mean, I can imagine going through an event like what you just described. But at the end of that day, I'd be sitting in my living room, tell everybody to leave me alone, and I'd be like, I need some time to myself and
Yeah.
try to not store that in the body and not store it in the mind as best as possible. I
That's
think,
great advice.
you know, you put that stuff in a compartment and tuck it away. And after a while, you've got a full box, and it could be overwhelming.
Yeah, it's going to blow at some point if you don't
Right.
process it.
You got to address that, even if it's just a piece at a time. You know,
Yeah.
like the major, those at least the major elements that quote unquote haunt you.
Yeah, it's very important. And I'm starting to talk. I need to talk about this more, but I think a good process for first responders to have in place, and this is prior to things happening, is you sit down and you speak to your spouse about the importance of maybe needing time to decompress when you get home at night.
Hmm.
You know, every night. Maybe first half hour is mine. I just come in, I chill. Everyone kind of, just leave me alone. Let me do my thing, and then after that, I'll talk. And then kind of couple that with something traumatic that happened that day. I think that you need to have a system in place where, and this goes to communication as well with your spouse. You know, a lot of us historically thought that we were doing our spouses a favor by not bringing the work home with us, but the work is coming home with you. It's whether or not you discuss what happened with your wife or husband. So I think instead of saying I don't want to bring it home, I don't want to discuss this with he or she, have something in place where you don't have to tell them everything, but you come home, say a traumatic event, say, I mean, that one didn't really hit me too bad, believe it or not, but the night that I had him like call with the baby drowning, have a system in place where you just get home and you're like, baby, bad day. And the night is mine. I could, do whatever I want. But by the next work day, before I go into work tomorrow, we have this system where we have to sit down and I kind of have to tell you what happened
Hmm.
so you know where I am. Because think about it, we come home and we have, these attitudes or this anger or this rage. First of all, there is a reason for it, but your spouse doesn't know what it is. So now all you're doing is shutting them out. They think you're nuts. He's got it. He's crazy. He's got this temper, this and that. Because there's no context of which you're putting in what you just went through with your spouse. So they're just kind of looking for crumbs here and there to maybe figure out what the hell's going on. Life is not meant to be lived that way, and you're not going to have a healthy marriage if you keep bottling everything outside and don't kind of let them in to see what it is you've been going through. And I promise you, they want to be there and want to help you.
Yeah, it's a team. I mean, I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. So just something for you guys, who are watching or maybe going through it right now. So what, say you get someone, a veteran first responder, comes to you, you're teaching them, and they're telling you, I'm having a tough time, man. I just all the stuff that I've been through over the years. I just can't get it out of my head. Is there anything? Obviously, the breath work is huge in terms of recommendations for you. Anything else that you know, on the table that you tell them as far as things you found
Well,
to be
I'm
great?
not a professional,
Sure.
As far as that goes. So that's one of the first things I've had students where I've had these conversations is let's find you someone that is a pro that you like and that you will talk to. Might not be the first one, might not be the second one, might not be the third, and that is okay.
Yeah.
But the guys that have come to me is because I'm Sifu. They grew up in the academy. They went out, they served their country, and they came back. And I guess they didn't want to handle it at home, so they came into the office at the academy, and we had, And I was very fortunate that I had students who did that type of work, and they could help guide us in finding somebody. That's number one, is somebody that does that for a living. And for me, I would start, introducing some of the ideas, if they were open to it, for the internal landscape stuff and the breath work. Almost all of the individuals that I've worked with, that was my zone of genius, was talking about the breath work, getting better control of the body. One of the major elements in that breath work is the ability to connect with tension that you hold in your body and relax, to let stuff go out of the body. In Chinese Qigong, Chinese medicine, they believe a lot of trauma can be held in the body physically.
Yeah, me too.
And eventually that can turn into different things. So they want to recognize it, get in touch with it, and start to release it out of the body. So that stuff I had spent a lifetime doing. So that's what I offered to those guys, mostly after they got some help from somebody that's in that field.
Okay. Do you believe the same thing, that traumas tend to kind of manifest themselves into physical trauma as well in the
Absolutely.
body?
Yep.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely.
100%.
Sometimes in life I've had things happen where I didn't get to sit down immediately and address it. I lead a pretty busy life.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And I'll just deal with that later. I'm traveling. I got to get to this point. I got to go teach that, and to me it comes back. And I think the later in your journey too, you are not as resilient to those types of things. So even if you're young and you feel like, well, I've got it, it doesn't affect me, it eventually will. But you can always learn the tools to deal with it. And there's different ways. Like I have my ways. It's highly influenced by my background. But there are other different ways. But find something, and tension control in the body is a huge life skill. Stress will kill you. It will make you sick. It will wear you down. And your ability to resist it lessens as you get older. So I had a lot of tools, physical tools that I learned from my teachers, mental tools that I learned younger. And I remember learning them and going, oh, I'll never need that. Well, I'll never have to do this. Stretching, I'll never stretch. Look what I can do.
Yeah.
And then years later, I'm glad I learned that, and I'm glad I took notes.
Yep.
Because here I am going, now it's time to start doing some stretching.
Yeah.
I have
Greatest single
to
thing you can do
focus
is
on
age.
getting that tension out of the body. I have to spend some time on a daily basis getting better at it. So, take the time and energy to learn those life tools now. And so when that time comes, you'll have some answers. You'll have some things you can do, or identify some sources of information. I know a mentor who does these. I might not learn it just yet, but I know that source of information. And you can go to them when it is needed and go, hey, coach, can you help me out with this? Teach me how to implement this idea.
Yeah, great advice. Always surround yourself by others who are smarter than you. And it's funny, Tony Robbins has coaches. Like, there is no reason, no matter what level you've achieved at anything, not to, try to ascend even further. And there are always people who are smarter, better. Whatever it is you're doing, they have just a better mastery of the craft. And there's no weakness in reaching out and asking for help. And 99.9% of the time, they love doing it anyway. That's all
Oh
they
yeah,
want to do is help someone. Just put the ladder down, as my buddy Wiz says, and they want to help people, climb up and ascend themselves. It's amazing. It's
yeah.
usually the type
If
of people you're
they're
dealing
a
with.
high vibrating individual, that
Yeah.
in my experience, they're looking for people that really want to learn.
Yep.
that really realize I don't know what I don't know, and I'm willing to put time, energy into finding it out. They love those types of personalities.
100%.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I'll say this too. I tell when I coach, sometimes you'll have to pay to get in that room. I've got mentors where I'm like, well, how do you say this? I've grown a little past my current ones. I'm looking for the next one, and you might not have that network or the relationship with that person, but you realize that they have that source of information, that knowledge and wisdom that you need. It's okay to hire that person to gain that information. I do that pretty extensively.
Yep. Exchange
Yep,
of energy.
agreed.
Absolutely. All right. So listen, this has been a fantastic talk. Is there anything that, any subject you'd like to bring up or anything you wanted to tell the guys or girls?
Oh, I would echo what we've talked about. We've hit a lot of subjects.
Absolutely.
You know, out of everything, I would go back to you can achieve anything. If there is a moment where you think you can't, you can. And sometimes we just have to get around our own minds and our
Yeah.
own internal landscape. And if a higher being who saw past our journey with greater wisdom were to write that program for us, we would probably look at it and go, there's no way I'd ever do that. And the reason I point that out is because a lot of times we limit ourselves by our current internal environment. Shoot big.
Yeah.
And, worst case scenario, if you fall short, a lot of times it might be higher than your original plan. But, and surround yourself with the people that can influence the principle of proximity. And especially if you're struggling, that's not something to do alone. You can find people, and we mentioned our friend Kenny earlier.
Yep.
One of the powerful things about Kenny is that guy really cares. He
Yeah.
really does. That guy will put
100%.
down anything, drive across the country to come and talk to you.
Absolutely.
So there are people like that, and so all you have to do is look, and time and energy, and place yourself close to them. And most of the time, like we said earlier, they'll want to help. That's one of the things. Like Kenny, they want to give back. They want to assist and help as many people as they can. So,
Yeah. 100%. And I love that quote by Henry Ford, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
yep, that's
So,
true.
just goes to your saying, whatever you think you can achieve, you can. So, Sifu, it was fantastic speaking to you. Totally honored that you came on the podcast. I know that we change one person's life, which is what I aim to do with every podcast. And, I thank you once again for taking the time out.
Mike, thanks for having me. It's an honor. And again, thank you for your service and all the time, blood, sweat, and tears you put into what you do. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Guys, another episode. I hope you liked it. If you do, hit like and subscribe, and we will see you guys soon. Take care.